Welcome to the Purple Life Podcast for Christian Women. I'm Angie Nuttle, founder of the Purple Life Community and VIP Center for Business Women. We recently hosted our 7th annual VIP Week conference for Christian women, where the ladies gathered from around the country for encouragement, healing, spiritual growth, leadership development, and just straight up biblical truth. During the week, I shared a powerful session called Woman of God versus the Narcissist, the silent thief of your calling. And in this message, we explore how narcissistic relationships and toxic dynamics can quietly impact your identity, your confidence, your peace, and your discernment, and even your God-given calling. So today, I'm going to show that to you, and we're going to talk about spiritual and emotional manipulation, confusion, emotional exhaustion, the subtle ways women lose themselves in unhealthy relationships, how to heal, regain clarity, and walk in spiritual authority again. Because this teaching goes deep, I also created a companion guide with it and a workbook to help you to reflect, process, and apply what you learn. So if you'd like a free copy of it, then simply email me at Angie@vipcenter.works, and I will send that over to you. And if this message encourages you, please subscribe to the Purple Life Community Podcast and share this with another woman of God who may be in need of healing, wisdom, and clarity. All right. I hope you enjoy the session. All right, ladies, it is 11:35 a.m. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Rachel is dropping today's workbook in chat for you. So this is a fillable workbook that you can grab. There are some really cool tools in here, and we'll hit those here in just a moment. But first of all, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so glad that you are here for VIP week. It's such a blessing to have you all here. And because we provide a place of safety and this is about mission and kingdom purpose, it's really about being real. I love Charnel last night just talking about, hey, we've just got to be in the real. We've got to be dealing with the real stuff. And that requires us to be vulnerable. And so, what we're about to talk about is a very sensitive topic. And I want to speak to those of you who suspect or you're dealing with a narcissist. And this can be very difficult to talk about because we're all afraid of judgment or worried that others are going to think that we're weak and passive. And that is simply not the case here. So the truth is that you're not just dealing with a difficult person or your average relationship conflict. When any woman who has ever been in this situation, you know that you've been standing in the middle of a battle. And some women may not even realize it yet. So when we talk about narcissism today, it's time to be real with what has been happening to those who have been going through this or you're actually going through this now. The truth is that there is something that has been working against you when you're caught up in a narcissistic relationship. It's something that can slowly pull you out of alignment. We've been talking about alignment today. It confuses you, it drains you. I just love the setup this morning with Summer and all of the things that she was talking about, surrender. This just walks right in alignment with that. Dealing with a narcissist can suck the very life out of you. And it causes you to question yourself. It even causes you to question God. So you've probably had moments where you thought, did I misunderstand something? Did I miss God? Did I actually cause this relationship, this reaction? Why do I feel so confused all the time? And the one that I have thought over and over the course of my life dealing with narcissists, am I losing it? Am I going crazy? Has anyone ever felt that? If you do, Show me some love and let me know that is you. Yes, I see some hands up. Yeah. Maybe you have even asked God, did I get this wrong? Did I miss your voice somehow? Did I miss you? I'm going to just answer that for you. The answer is no. You're not dealing with what would be considered normal conflict. This is a lesson that I had to learn over years. And I do want to preface this also with just talking about the fact that when we're talking about narcissists, we're talking about a wide variety of relationships. We're talking about marriages, we're talking about family relationship, people that you work with. This can be any relationship that is plagued with a narcissist. So the truth of this is something that I've learned is that you're not just dealing with a human who's having bad behavior. You're dealing with a dark force that wants to take you down. And I'm just going to be real with you. This is something that has been designed to destabilize you emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And the truth of it is, this isn't new. This really is an ancient strategy that the enemy has been using since the beginning. He's just wearing different faces in today's culture. And if you are a woman of God, and I assume that every woman that's here, all 24 of you, are women of God, you're faith filled, you're Holy Spirit filled, and you're called to kingdom purpose. I'm here to tell you that you are being targeted because the enemy knows if he can confuse you, he can disconnect you, he can delay you, he can eventually dismantle your calling if you allow him to do this. But here's what I also know. God sees every one of you. He sees us. He knows exactly what's happening, and he is bigger than the enemy. His name is more powerful than any other name. The name of Jesus Christ is more powerful than any other name. That is something that we have to keep in the forefront of our minds and our hearts as we're looking at this thing called narcissism. So the fact that you are here right now, it just means that something in you is waking up to this. Or maybe you're not woke up, but by the end of our time together, you will wake up. And it's no accident that you're here. So let me get our slides going here. So I think I know most of you. For those of you that were just meeting for the first time, I'm Angie Nuttle, and I am a Christian. I am a woman of God. I'm also an executive business coach by trade, and I am a minister exclusively for women. So I also happen to be the founder of the VIP Center in the Purple Life community, which some of you are members in good standing. So what do? I have distilled it down to I've always done a lot of things. I clean toilets, I coach people, I cook food, I do all the things just like everybody else. I'm just a normal human being. But when I look at my mission and what God has called me to do, he's called me to equip faith-based women to navigate spiritual warfare and to really break free from those spiritual prisons that we find ourselves in. And I help women to step into their calling. But I didn't come into this work from theory or because I thought it would be fun. As a matter of fact, that's the opposite. I was talking with Charnel yesterday. I was like, I never envisioned myself working with women because women can be catty. They can be mean and backstab you and they'll slander behind your back. And I found out men can do that too. But I just never saw myself just working with women. But when we talk about narcissism, I came into this part of my work with women because I lived it for years. And it's really hard for me to say that because I'm not a person that likes to be vulnerable. Who loves vulnerability? Not me. I'm not going to be raising my hand for that one. And so I spent many years living this silent life behind the scenes. And I think that at some point, all of us have done that, where we're out there in the world doing great things, and then we go home and it's a whole different ballgame. Or you're going to work And it's you've got a boss who is just eating your lunch every day with narcissism. And it just is like a big wrecking ball in our lives. And so over time, God began to push me into working with women. He didn't start out with narcissism. It was really working with women in business, helping to equip them to stand up and grow their businesses, all of the things. But God called me to work specifically with strong, called, faith filled women who knew they had a kingdom purpose. And over time, I started seeing this annoying, irritating pattern show up over and over again. And what I realized is that many women are not stuck because they lack faith. They're stuck in PTSD mode, frozen, and not able to move forward because they're entangled in something that they don't have language for. And so it's difficult to talk about because of the level of vulnerability, and they really don't know how to articulate it. I want to talk about what we're going to learn, but first of all, in chat, I would love for you to just post in chat, what is it that you want to learn about this topic of narcissism? You're welcome to post that. I see some, let me pop in there and see what's coming up here. All right, we've got yeses, absolutely. This is good. All right, what do you want to learn? Recognizing the signs, how to identify it. Yes. All right. What does life look like on the other side? Thank you, Betsy, for that. All righty. Let's see. Rachel's going to go ahead and post the workbook in chat if you haven't done that already, Rachel.
Yes.
So,
Angie, quick question. You said you were starting your slides, but we can't see them.
okay.
But I will repost that for you.
Okay. Sure. Let me share my screen here. All righty. There we go.
Yay.
Let me. All right. Can you guys see everything? Okay. Yeah. So let's see what else we have in terms of what everybody wants to learn. Let me find my chat again. I have a million windows up. Boundaries, building trust with myself, a fear of using others like I was, boundaries, setting healthy boundaries, navigating out. All right. Yeah. You guys are right on target. This is exactly what most women want to know and understand. So here's what we're going to walk away with today. I want to give you 4 particular things that, and I just want to hit this thing head on with this silent thief of your calling. That's what I call it, because it just kind of seeps in like a leak, like a slow leak into your life, and it slowly erodes away your confidence. But what I want to do today with the leading of the Holy Spirit is I want to give you these 4 things in the next few minutes. I want to give you some language to what you've gone through or what you're going through now. I want to be able to provide some discernment. I want you to be able to operate in God's discernment to recognize what's going on so that you can actually step into the truth and stop putting this on yourself. There are things that you as a woman of God need to do, but there are a lot of things. If you're dealing with a narcissist, you feel like everything is your fault, and it's not. And so I want you to be able to see that truth today. And then I want to talk a little bit about strategy. I've got 5 things for you that are just quick application. And then once we get done with that, I'm going to allow you some breakout time to talk about things and answer some questions, and we'll have a discussion. So I also want you to see this QR code for our YouTube podcast. And this is the Purple Life Community Podcast. So on Thursdays, I have a dedicated podcast about narcissism. And this is how important this has become as a part of the work that I'm doing. It's not the only thing that I focus on, but it's an important thing where a lot of women are experiencing trouble. But this is the QR code to that YouTube podcast. I'm asking you to subscribe to that. I have a library and wealth of information from a biblical standpoint about what this is how you handle it, what some of the things are that you're going through. So I want you to get even more guidance and answers after today's session. So I want to share a high level personal story, and my goal is I'm not going to single people out. I'm not going to call out any names of people in my life because I don't want you to get sucked into my story. I want to help you if you are going through this. And this isn't my usual story of success or the light side, capital L, light side of ministry. This is really a time in my life where I've hid a lot about my personal life. And it was a long season in my life where everything on paper looked aligned. I loved God. I wanted to do great things for him. I was growing in my career and my business. I've always been an entrepreneur, so I've always done little businesses here and there. And I was determined to step into my calling. And I remember meeting a particular person where at first everything felt right. The conversations were deep. There was intensity. There was attention. And I thought, oh my gosh, this could be him, God. And I felt like I was living in a fairy tale. This was just the most awesome thing that had ever happened to me. Then over time, things just started to shift, and not in a really obvious way, just very subtle. And sometimes things happen and we just overlook it. We shove it over. And, oh, maybe that was just a fluke that happened. But the truth is, with this person, I would walk away from conversations feeling off and feeling confused. And there were moments when I said, that kind of hurt. And I thought that might be normal. But what wasn't normal is I was walking away from those conversations and those interactions feeling like I did something wrong. And I started hearing from the other person things like, that's not what I said. You didn't hear me correctly. You're not listening. You're overthinking this. Oh, you're too sensitive. I just wish that you would quit talking about your feelings all the time. And I just remember sitting there after one particular conversation, replaying it in my head, thinking, now, wait a minute. I know what I heard. But then I immediately went into questioning myself. Did I misunderstand this? Am I making this bigger? Am I blowing this out of proportion? Am I crazy? And let me tell you, even at one point, I thought maybe I'm having early onset dementia. I literally thought this. I thought that's what was happening to me, that I was actually losing my mind, that my brain was deteriorating. And I will say that Summer said something about how emotional, mental abuse is as damaging as physical. That is absolutely true. It can actually destroy you physically and mentally when you're dealing with a narcissist, and it will drive you crazy. And so, what's crazy is I wasn't a weak woman. You guys know me. I'm not a very weak, passive kind of gal. I had discernment, I had a relationship with God, and I had a really positive attitude and outlook, and I was serving God. But in this other world that no one knew anything about, that no one else saw, I was over explaining myself all the time. I was trying to prove myself every time. I was always trying to fix everything. And I remember, man, why do I feel so disconnected from myself when nothing looks obviously wrong? And that's when I realized, and it hit me, this isn't normal. Something is off about this relationship. This is not a normal relationship. But at the time, I just did not have the language for it. And I realized that I was caught up in this big fancy word called juxtaposition. A lot of people don't understand what that word is, but really, so what it is, there are two opposing realities in a juxtaposition. And the narcissistic relationship is exactly that. I was dealing with a narcissist who appeared one way, but was actually a different person. And I was constantly thinking, why does no one else see this? I realized something else, that this didn't just happen once. When I got the nerve to finally end that relationship, guess what? I jumped right into another one. It became a pattern for me. And I just kept encountering the same type of dynamic at least 3 times in a row. Now, let me tell you, I felt like an idiot. And I look back and I felt, man, how did I not see that? But that's the power of a narcissist when he's operating and you're not aware of that. That dynamic brings confusion, the same emotional cycle. It brings this pattern. And there's some, what I realize is, okay, I've got to start figuring this out. I need to put some language, but I also need to be able to discern what's happening and find out exactly what is a narcissist. What is this? So I want to be very real here. I'm not here to diagnose anyone, but I am here to help discern patterns because we need knowledge. And you'll hear the term narcissism used in psychology. I'm going to do a comparison of what today's psychologists call narcissism, and then I'm going to give you a spiritual definition of that and show you what that is. So let me get over here. Okay. So what is narcissism? So the DSM-5, you see that term there, that's actually the mental health professions diagnostic manual. It's the go-to manual of all of the mental disorders. And if you look in your workbook, you'll see that this is actually a little bit further in your workbook. We'll look at this in just a moment. But if you go towards the back, you're going to see NPD 9 criteria, and this is simplified in your workbook. I don't have them all listed here, but what the DSM-5 say and what psychologists say is that in order to actually have what they call narcissistic personality disorder, you have to have 5 of these 9 criteria to be diagnosed as a narcissist. So this is a funny thing. I actually started out as a therapist early in my career, once I got out of college. And I never had a single narcissist on my caseload. Why is that? Because narcissists, they don't come in for help because they believe that they are right and everyone else is wrong. They believe that they are good and everyone else is bad. A narcissist has their thinking is it's like a dichotomy. It's either or, one or the other. There's no gray matter in between. For the narcissist, they basically trick themselves into thinking everybody else is screwed up and they're the only sane one. So anyway, that is why you rarely have a true narcissist that comes in for therapy. If they're coming in, it's because someone has forced their hand, they're going to get divorced, and the narcissist will show up for therapy, but they won't talk, or they'll make it really difficult. So some of the key traits of narcissism, according to DSM psychology, is there is a lack of empathy, and a noticeable lack of empathy. They have an excessive need for admiration. They need the attention. You're a source of supply. And you hear people who talk about narcissism, like the narcissist has to have supply. And this is actually how they get their supply. They will manipulate. They have this sense of entitlement, like everyone owes them. There's an extreme arrogance and pride that shows up here. And in many cases, they really need to be the center of attention. But I do want to say that in the world of psychology, there are varying degrees. I even heard somebody use the language recently that, oh, this is a low grade narcissist, right? Everybody has narcissistic tendencies at some point or another. There are things like we might catch ourselves just looking at ourselves in the mirror. Like, oh, do I have any imperfections? That's pretty normal. But the difference is with narcissism, this is pathological. It is a pattern, and it's very profound in the way that you notice this. So I do want you to take a deeper look than just this commonly used label because a lot of people use the word narcissism and they throw it around. What I want to do now is I want to take you to the true authority, which is the Bible. I have been writing a book for the last 2 years, and it has been painful to write it because it's about this very thing. And what I discovered in my research in the Bible is just starting with 2 Timothy 3, verses 1 through 5, you'll see all of this in the narcissist checklist that we'll look at here shortly. But 2 Timothy 3, verses 1 through 5, it basically says this. Let me read this here. But know this, that in the last days, perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves. Incidentally, narcissist means lover of self. This just happens to be in the Bible. Lovers of money, boastful, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And then it says, and from such turn away. Have nothing to do with such people. So what I want to tell you about this is what we're seeing today. It's not new. And there are other entities or definitions or characteristics and signs of narcissism all throughout the entire Bible. This is like what was so amazing to me, how it lit up. And the Bible has different names. It has different titles for this kind of ungodly person. And it's really a spiritual battle. So some of the names and titles and traits that come out in the Bible, a fool. This is how I even got started really looking into narcissism, when I was digging into the story of Abigail and Nabal. I actually talked about that at our last beach retreat, and then even at Purple Life a couple of years ago. So a fool, an evildoer, a wicked person, man of lawlessness. I think there are about 10 different titles / names that I ran across in this. And so this is ultimately someone who resists the truth, who wants to operate outside of righteousness. And so many people, what they call narcissism today, it goes beyond personality. And that's really important for us to know. It's what I call a cocktail of spirits. This is a spirit of confusion, control, fear, deception, division. There's contentiousness. There's so much spirit of pride. They're all working together to do one thing, and that is to disrupt your identity and disconnect you from your calling. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm talking about this, because I realize that this can really take a woman down if you're not careful. So it's not just psychological. It truly is a spiritual battle. Anyone have a guess as to when narcissism first manifested in the Bible? And anybody can come off mute. Anyone know when narcissism first showed up?
Was it with Cain, maybe?
With Cain? Actually,
In
before
it.
that.
Is it Samuel? Not
Oh,
Samuel.
Lucifer.
But oh wait.
Yeah, it was Lucifer.
Oh,
It was-
okay.
It was Satan himself in the Garden of Eden. Satan is the biggest narcissist around, and he is the father of it. He's the one that birthed it. And he started off saying, did God really say? Actually, that is a sign of gaslighting. He actually gaslighted Eve in the garden. It wasn't curiosity, that was pure manipulation. And that narcissistic spirit is really just a master at manipulation. And let me just say this, that the enemy, he doesn't need to destroy you physically, not if he can distort you mentally, emotionally, and manipulate you right here. So I just have to interject here, though. It's not hopeless. So if you're like, oh my gosh, a formidable opponent, I just want to say and declare right now that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. So we don't have to be entangled in this, but we have to have the ability to be free from these deceptions. And we have to, in order to do this, we've got to recognize the tactics and weapons. And there are a lot of them. I'm just going to show you a few for today. There are some in your workbook that I'm not talking about today. Let me go on to the next slide here. So here are some of the tactics. Let's see here. So when I look at these tactics, these are really dark strategies that the enemy wants, he uses on us, but we need to wake up to these and realize that these are done to confuse us. First one is a really popular one that you hear people talking about all the time is gaslighting. This is where that narcissistic spirit causes you to question your reality. Those things, oh, that didn't happen. You're remembering it wrong. Are you sure? Did God say? All of those things where it's just trying to introduce some alternate reality and make it the reality when it's not at all. I just remember sitting after conversations, replaying the thoughts over and over in my head. When I said earlier, I know I heard that. And then I started just recording things, just started writing things down just to make sure that I wasn't losing it. But narcissists are, you can have a million witnesses in the room, and the narcissist is going to say, nope, that's not what you heard. All you a million people, that's not what you heard. But we, as women who are problem solvers, we're questioning ourselves. Am I overreacting? Did I misunderstand this? And so gaslighting it really is a weapon to disconnect you from your discernment. Another tactic, love bombing. I referred to this relationship that I was in, and it was fast. It was intense. There's just the fairy tale is happening. Everything is wonderful. It's like a dream come true. It feels deep. It feels meaningful. And then it shifted. And so what feels like intimacy is actually intensity. And so that creates this emotional dependency. This is really important because love bombing, it works in tandem with something else that I'm going to share with you here in just a moment. Blame shifting. So everything becomes your fault. I know that for me, I found myself apologizing even when I didn't even do those things. And over time, I just started overcorrecting myself constantly. You start trying to manage yourself and you're busy just trying to do all of the right things and avoid conflict and keep the peace and try to come up with all of the problem solving. Next one, silent treatment. So the narcissist consistently uses this as a tool to withdraw from you as a use of control and to try to control the narrative. And that's what they want. They want to control the narrative. And so I went through times where communication would just stop. It would just stop for days. And because I'm a problem solver, I found myself chasing resolution and trying to fix it and trying to restore it. And I'm just curious if anybody else, you can do this by showing me a heart or raising your hand. Have you been in this situation where it wasn't your fault, no obvious fault of yours, but you were trying to just bring back restoration and just trying to get things back to normal? So yeah, I see some hands raised there. The silence isn't peace. It's their effort to control you. And so what you can do is you can find yourself starting to chase reconnection instead of standing in clarity and saying, this isn't something that I need to take on. This isn't my cross to bear. This person is giving the silent treatment. I got to move on because I want to give you some time to talk here. Another tactic of the narcissist is projection. So they accuse you of exactly what they were doing. Now, I was accused in this one particular relationship earlier, I was accused of being in a relationship with someone else by this person. Later, I found out they were the one who was actually doing that. but they were taking the attention off themselves and accusing me. So they like to mirror things and they like to twist. And so projection really does confuse your identity because they're just trying to introduce that juxtaposition that I was telling you about. So this really goes beyond nature and it goes beyond just a human doing this. And that's an important piece of the awareness that humans are really, they may open their lives up to these spiritual forces, but they're really a puppet for dark spiritual forces to work through that person to get to you. And this is why Ephesians 6:12 says, we're not fighting against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces, principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness, spiritual wickedness in high places. This is spiritual warfare. So when you're hit over and over with these tactics, it really has a severe backlash to you as a woman of God. So I want to show you what this does to you over time. All right. So you really do start off confident, clear, connected to God, and slowly you just start second guessing yourself. You're over explaining things. You're feeling emotionally drained. You lose your clarity. You start to feel isolated. You start to begin to doubt your calling. And even if you're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you really struggle to remember. So then something really significant happens here. Now, you remember I told you that love bombing is a key ingredient to just this unhealthy and very toxic thing that happens to you. So basically, trauma bonding happens when you're in this relationship with the narcissist. I want to tell you that trauma bonding is not love. It's not love. It is a cycle of pain, relief, and attachment. All right? Hurt, confusion, disconnection. And then suddenly, attention, affection, and apology. It is a cycle. And the truth is, if the relationship was bad all the time, most people would leave. If it was just bad all the time, there was nothing positive. It's the inconsistency that hooks a woman of God into a narcissistic relationship. You have the love bombing, and then there's the pain, whatever that looks like, whether it's they're gaslighting you all the time, they're angry at you, they're blaming you for everything. And this does have an impact on your nervous system. Your nervous system actually bonds to those times of relief. I look at it like, and it's not the person. I look at this like a stun gun. Like when you're being stun gunned, that's you going through the pain with the narcissist. And then when you get released, it's like, oh, thank God that was over. And you're so relieved. That's what trauma bonding is. But the problem is once you get the relief, then you wait for the other shoe to drop because you've learned that pain still comes back around. And so this trauma bonding is what actually causes you to stay longer and keep trying and keep hoping. Now, I want to say this for the record. You're not crazy. You're not weak. And you are not the problem. But we do have to face this really hard reality. And what I have learned in my time with the Lord, the experiences that I've had, and just doing the research on this is you're not going to change a narcissist. They don't want healing. God will not override their will. God can definitely zap them and make them behave to a degree, and they will not bring harm to you. But the truth is what you get with the narcissist. Any change is usually because they want something and it's only temporary. The enemy, Satan, is disguised as an angel of light. Well, a narcissist is essentially that. They try to disguise themselves as an angel of light, but they can't keep that because that's not who they are. And it is unlikely that they're going to change permanently. In the psychological world, they say that This is a disorder, and it is marked by cognitive rigidity, which means that they're not capable of changing. We know that all things are possible with God, but it's really naive to believe that God is going to completely override someone's will and make them change. He gives us free choice, and we know that. We choose to come under the headship of Jesus, but the enemy, that's not his goal. We know that he tried to rise above God, and he's been trying to get that high seat ever since he got knocked down. So I want to share with you 5 quick things that you can do to just start reclaiming your power and start to recovery. This is not something that happens overnight, and it truly is a spiritual battle here. But first of all, it's strengthening your discernment. Everything needs to happen within the context of prayer as well. Strengthen your discernment. Now that you know that there's some language to this and you know what some of the tactics are, quit overriding what you're feeling. What you're feeling is, what you're experiencing. Yes, our heart can be deceitful. Our own heart can deceive us. And that's why we've got to go to God and say, God, will you help me to discern what is happening here? And quit allowing that enemy, that narcissist, to isolate you. Second thing, stop over explaining. You don't have to prove yourself. This is something that I had to learn. I thought I had to explain everything. And if we covered every base, that everything would be covered. But the narcissist they're like a slippery snake, right? They're like a rattlesnake. They might be nice for a little while, but they will eventually bite you. And so over explaining, it's not going to matter. Everything that you give them is actually material that they're going to throw back at you at some point or another. So setting boundaries without guilt. This is such a big one because we as women, we feel guilty for taking care of ourselves. That I had a situation one time where I said, you know what, I'm gonna go off for a couple of days. I'm gonna have some self-care. I need some time to think. And the narcissist gave me silent treatment for a week after I got back. That was my punishment. But I made a decision. Lord, I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not isolated. I know that you're with me. And I had a body of friends, godly friends that I could confide in to help me maintain the normalcy of the situation. And so that leads to the 4th thing, stop internalizing their behavior. It's time for us to stop taking responsibility for other people's feelings and behaviors and what they do. I'm not going to tell that story yet because I can't give it all away. I started to go there. But yeah, so sometimes the narcissist, not sometimes, they will usually, if they can put responsibility on you or the fault on you for something that is totally their responsibility, they will do it in a heartbeat. So 5th thing, reconnect to your voice and your calling. Reconnect to the voice of God. He's going to lead you through the Holy Spirit. If you come to him first, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness, and then all of these things will be added unto you. So I know this is a generic thing, but these are really the foundational things that you need to do before you really start jumping in and solving the problems. I do have a couple of resources for you that I'll share with you in a moment. But what I want to do right now is I want to give you a chance to do a little bit of reflection here. So in your workbook, so what I want to encourage you to do is even take a look at the biblical narcissist checklist. Just scan through that. And if you think about if you've been dealing with a narcissist or you have one from the past relationship, maybe check off some of those things that you've been noticing. And I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to look through that. And then we're going to go into a breakout. On this reflection slide, I have some questions And maybe you just grab one of those questions. And when you go into the breakout, you decide, I'm going to talk about where I need to set a boundary, or I need to talk about a place where I've been over explaining and I need to change that now. Okay. So, couple of minutes to reflect on the narcissist checklist. Oh, everybody's coming back. Welcome back, ladies. What happened? Well, hold on, because I might have a little solution for you. We do need to come back just for a moment. Let's just check in. So, anybody have something that came up in group discussion that what just came up for you, and this was a place where you were able to put language to it, or just hearing it from someone else, maybe it just affirmed you or it confirmed something for you. So who would like to share?
I would definitely say that it affirmed the last serious relationship that I was in. It was just like everything that you said checked every box, everyone else. But I did bring to the forefront of how does that look with a female leadership that's actually you're submitting to or you're reporting to. How does that really look in the female?
Yeah.
Be supportive of our female friends.
Absolutely, yeah.
But some of them just suck you dry.
Yes.
Yeah. The devil has no criteria, whether you're a man or a woman, that he can operate through you. It's really whoever is willing to be yielded and open to that. And I talk about narcissism being a cocktail of spirits. One of that it has to do with envy and jealousy. That's actually part of the DSM-5 criteria.
Yes.
But you also see that all throughout the Bible. Saul and David is a
Yeah.
great example of that.
Per- Example, yeah.
Haman and Mordecai.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone else.
So that brings a question. Just because my husband gets jealous, that doesn't mean that he's a narcissist, right?
Correct. Yeah. So this is where the discernment comes in, because you have your normal conflict in a relationship. There's a normal dysfunction, and then there's a narcissistic dysfunction. Yeah. So there's the difference between the narcissist and, let's say, your husband, for example. Your husband is willing to come back together and say, okay, let's work on this together. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. The narcissist, that's not in his dictionary. It's always going to be your fault. And
He's always right.
yeah, there's not a willingness to bend, and they will stonewall you until you come to them and say sorry. So there's just a big difference in the mindset and in the heart.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone else want to share something?
Angie, what about when it comes to a boss?
When it comes to a boss, yeah, like I said,
I had a narcissistic.
I've worked for narcissistic bosses, more than one. That was like being in a pit of vipers. Yeah. When I was in Iraq, that was terrible. Yeah. And I would say one thing that I have to say about this is that depending on who it is, how you're going to cope with that and how you're going to respond to that there's going to be some fundamental differences, right? You have to, if you're married to someone who is entertaining that narcissistic spirit, that's something that you have to tread very carefully. With the boss, that's a totally different ball game, because you don't have all of the emotional ties into it, although they do provoke you and make life miserable for you. So, Julie, did you have a question?
You just answered it, actually, because my spirit was a little troubled, and so I felt like I was maybe misunderstanding some things. If the relationship is one that you can leave, such as a boss or a friend, then self-preservation is important. If the relationship is marriage or a child,
Yes.
we have a role in that, don't we, to help them but protect, create
Yeah.
those boundaries. But can you speak to that a little bit? What I was hearing was hit the road, Jack. And I don't think that's what you were saying, but that's what I was hearing.
No, and that's not what I was saying at all. But what I will say that I've learned is that in the Bible, there are actually 3 different kinds of marriages. And I have a whole series in my podcast specifically about this topic. If you are a Christian and you are married to a Christian, and that Christian, that believer, I'm saying a believer, if there are 2 believers, you're supposed to work to submit to one another. But I would challenge that a narcissist isn't necessarily a true believer. In the Bible, there's a relationship between a believer and an unbeliever. And then you also see relationships between a believer and an ungodly person. The whole reason why we had Noah and the ark is because of the relation in Genesis 6, because of the relationship between godly men and ungodly women there, and it grieved God. So there are unions that the Lord did not actually put together. He says, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. But there are a lot of relationships outside of what God ordained. And I will say that it is complicated. There are rules according to the Bible as to when that relationship can come to an end and what does not constitute that. And like I said, I've got some podcasts on that, but you've got to search the truth for yourself. Even God wanted me to stay in a particular relationship for a period of time until this person committed adultery. And then that relationship was over. But when you have 2 Christians together, you can't just get out because you don't feel good about each other anymore.
And do you mind if I add something to that? There's just something that the topics that I've studied. So there's the spiritual man, there's the carnal man, and then there's the unregenerated man. And so we know that the spirit man is led by the spirit where there's life, and then the carnal man is led by the spirit of carnality, meaning the desires of the flesh. And so we have a lot of Christians that profess Christ, but they're not followers of Christ. And so they may be saved, but they're not sanctified. So they're saved, but they're not followers of Christ. And I had a situation with a gentleman, and I had to bring him to the table with my boss because he was like, oh, no, everything is fine between the 2 of us. And I was like, no, everything is not fine. I said, if you love Jesus and I love Jesus, we should be able to get along with one another. And so sometimes just finding a place of humility to bring light, because sometimes they don't know. You remember Jesus told Peter, he said that, get thee behind me, Satan, because he was being influenced with that spirit at the time, and Peter didn't even know. So that's where that warfare comes in, and that's where we have to go to the Word of God and fight that there would be a door of opportunity open that conversations can be had.
I always just say this. You, for yourself, when you're dealing with it, you need to go to the Word. You need to search this out for yourself and ask God to reveal the truth to you about the situation. There are all kinds of different situations in the Bible where God even took the narcissist out himself. There are all kinds of different scenarios, and you just have to trust the Lord to reveal to you what to do in your situation. But whether you leave or stay, the thing is, you've got to reconnect to God, and you've got to surround yourself with godly mentors, godly people who are going to come around you and be praying for you and supporting you. And that's ultimately what happened with me. I was able to get that support, and so I have found myself in the position of helping women just to pray and intercede in these kinds of situations.